Welcome back, everybody, to the Diary Room, back for episode 3 here, as we are going to pull another 6 Big Brother players, have 3 more matchups, send 3 more players through, leave 3 more behind. I, of course, am Matt alongside Aman. Aman, how's it going?
Yay! Episode 3, baby! Super excited. Thank you guys for joining us for another week after quite the episode last week. Hopefully we can keep the train going for this time around. Super excited to be back and ever excited to see how this wheel lands each and every time. So, yay!
Yes, and this week we are joined by first podcaster to be joining Corey and America are podcasters in their own right. Our first fellow RHAP podcaster to join us here in the Diary Room. It is the host of the Recap Kickback podcast, Chappell. Chappell, how's it going?
It's going. I'm very excited to be the first podcaster. No, I do not count Corey or America. They are Big Brother alums. They don't count as podcasters, but I'm the first, and I am very excited because this sounds like fun. I like what y'all have done with the place. I've been to the choir room several times, so being at the Diary Room, this is nice. This is nice. Okay,
Have we talked about that enough? The naming as we've gotten
right.
Into
Are
this
y'all
project?
is that y'all's thing? That's y'all brand, like
the rooms?
The room.
The room. So in 6 years, when this project is done, we pick a different show, and it has to have
what's the next room? Yeah,
I don't know.
What's the next room? I don't know. I'll think of something. Kaysar more. Does that count? You're gonna cover Love Island?
I mean,
I don't want to step on toes there, but we can think about it. I mean, both of us are watching it. You're not at the moment in time.
I will never. I mean, I will. I'll be. Yeah, sure.
Someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've been having some fun so far in the Diary Room, as we have named it. It made sense. Choir room, diary room. Here we go. But I know one episode I'm going to say, welcome to the choir room, and that's fine. Chappell, we've had 6 matchups so far through our first 2 episodes, and we want to get your takes on how some of them have gone.
Okay, well, catch me up on the most recent matchups because I have not yet listened to the most recent podcast. I've only heard the first one. So yes. I know 3 of the matchups. Those were interesting, but I definitely want to know what happened when you brought America on.
Yes. So in the last episode, when America was on, we started off with a hell of a bang, Aman.
I still can't believe that this happened. So we first drew Nick Uhas of Big Brother 15. And then, as fate would have it, from Big Brother 25, we drew Corey Wertenberger, baby.
What?
Yes.
Yes.
It still makes absolutely no sense. The amount of names that are on that wheel for, we were talking beforehand, joking like, okay, well, what if a name was to come up for, we had America on when we had Corey on, like, what if they came up on their episode? How insane would that be? And instead we get the next best thing when America is on. Instead of, unfortunately, we cannot get her name to come up, but we were able to get somebody who was in the same apartment, house, whatever as her to come up on the wheel.
This is still a little rigged. I don't know. I'm gonna need to see the wheel spin because this is giving like Haley and then Danielle at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all, I don't know, shenanigans. I might see some shenanigans afoot.
And look, if they were,
okay.
Well, I mean, look, I was not in, present during the construction of the key will. Okay. I was not present for the entering of the name. So if there are any allegations of riggery and rigomoris, point them all towards Mr. Ligori over there. That got nothing to do with
real nice.
I believe
right you, under the bus.
I believe you, honestly, but I have to ask. So Nick Uhas or Corey, who made it through?
Who would you have put through?
I mean, Corey has had higher highs for sure, but America's spicy. I wonder if she would have called an audible and tried to get Corey out of the mix very early. She's still in this tournament. Maybe she wants to win it all.
True. I mean, she'll still have an opportunity.
I wouldn't have put it past her to throw a little shade, but she kind of immediately went in on just saying like, that's my boo thing. I'm not going, I'm not going to go against him. That's my man. And I'm stand beside him.
Yeah. Okay, America.
Yeah. Corey went through there pretty easily.
Corey gets through. And then who next?
Next up, we had from Big Brother 18, we had Bronte. second/third boot of the season. And she was matched up against the only Vanessa Rousseau.
Oh yeah, this is another close one. You guys really, he's early on. These are some nail biters. So
enjoy round 1, everybody. Enjoy round 1. Corey in his first episode said something that has really stuck with me since, and he was talking about how what did he say? Like 90% of Big Brother players are bad.
The
And
vast majority are bad players,
yeah,
is what he said.
yeah. And that really feels true. I don't know that I've ever thought of it in those exact terms. But
see, because I was thinking about that the other day too, and I kind of agree, but I kind of don't. I think it's less so that 90% of players are bad. I think it's more so that Big Brother is hard. It's just a hard game. Like it requires so many skill sets that you would never really employ in any other area of your life. So I think the learning curve is very, very steep, and there are some people that are able to get it really quickly, but I don't think it necessarily makes you a bad player if you can't get it. I just think that it's a hard ass game.
It requires a very specific skill. I mean, you look at like professional athletes that train their whole lives to end up in the sport that they end up in. You don't have people, unless maybe Dan did, I don't know, go into Big Brother school for their entire life before they enter the house to train up on these skills. They just get thrown into the fire.
Yeah, calling majority of the players bad feels wrong, but saying that they're not good feels right to me. Like I feel like not good and bad don't equally, they're not the same. I feel like you could be a good player, you could be like a neutral player, and then you could be a bad player. And I feel like most of them fall somewhere in that bad to neutral spot. And then every now and then there's a good player who just cleans the floor with everybody, or the 2 or 3 good players form the huge alliance, pick everybody off, and then the bad and the mid players are probably the ones left over. So it makes them look bad. Bronte is a second or third boot. Who's to say Bronte is bad at Big Brother? She was only there for 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, depending on whatever. But, maybe had she squeaked by a couple more rounds, we would have seen the Bronte renaissance. We don't know. So, yeah, I think there's something to what Corey is saying, but I don't know if bad is what I would use to describe most of them.
Yeah, and while we're like kind of in the topic of what also is on my mind, we got a couple of a little bit of bits of feedback, Amon, about the way that we approach how to make these decisions, specifically the aspect of the fact that sometimes we're looking at it from a perspective of who would do better on a returning season coming back. And I think that I think, at least for myself, speaking for myself, I feel like I have the right idea of what I'm trying to get at. Like in my head, I don't know that I've been visualizing like what happens if Yvette and Mark end up on BB27 together, even though that is how I've been framing it. Like the thought process is usually if they played 100 seasons, which is kind of, a different thing, I think, from like what if they were on a full returnee season? Like what if they played for the first time, I think 100 times with like a newbie cast? Is that like what that means? I think. So I feel like we're still going to kind of bring it up in that context of like, if we saw them again and not just the time that we saw them. Obviously a lot of it's based on the time that we saw them, but I don't know, there's a lot of ways to think about it.
Yeah, it's not so much like how would they do if they were on an all returnee season, because that's too many variables to account for. It's more so if they played again and they played the same way they played, maybe with a different set of circumstances, different cast, maybe not all returnees, but a different cast, would that game be is it more likely to fail again, or is it more likely to, could they potentially do better? And I think that's more of like the vein of which we're trying to put it. So I understood the critique, but I also don't think that at least for me, I wasn't necessarily thinking about, if this was Big Brother 22 and they were there, how would they do? Although that's still a fun exercise to employ, I think, still too, because I think it is indicative of what we think about their first game. So
yeah, I liked what I think, Matt, you said it in episode 1. You said if you had these 2 players on the board, who would you draft first?
That's how I think about it.
Them.
Yeah.
And that's how I started looking at it too. I said, okay, you had Danielle up against, I don't remember who she was up against, but I was like, okay, if I had the 2 of them, who would I draft first? And then that is just the way I'm going to move forward. Not to say that, since they played last time, they might have been better. They're more indoctrinated in the community. Maybe they've watched a lot of Big Brother. Maybe they played other games. But based off of what I know about them and the way they played Big Brother the first time, who would I draft? And that is how I'm moving forward. So hopefully you all figure out a hard and fast rule, but I honestly don't think there needs to be one. I think when you say best Big Brother player, it can mean a lot of things. Some people yeah. And I mean, some people take challenge strength into consideration and weigh it very high. Some people don't. So there'll be definitely times where there'll probably be upsets here where people really don't agree. But I think the goal here is that to really have the conversations, right? Like, is anybody really quibbling over some of these people going out in the early rounds? If you are, please get a life. Go outside and touch the grass. Other than that, let's have fun. This is going to be a good time.
Exactly.
You mentioned it was Danny Briones versus Haley from Big Brother 20 in that first round, and it's funny that you forgot about Haley being a part of that, because that is the one matchup I will say through 6 matchups that we've had so far that I've honestly had a decent amount of regrets on. I feel like I heard from a couple of people along the way of just saying that they would have picked Haley, and the more I thought about it, and I was rewatching a lot of stuff from BB13 recently, and I'm like, huh. I don't know about this Danny. I don't know.
Huh.
There's
I
different ways to
mean,
look at it. Would you have sent Danny through 100 times over Haley?
well, to be fair, I was talking about Danielle Licky. I don't remember who she was up against.
She was up
But
against Jillian Parker from
yeah,
BB.
see, that's why I don't remember. But when it
Yeah.
comes to Haley and Danny Briones, I think that the points that y'all made were pretty good. I think that that Danny, we've seen Danny's work, or we've seen her work. We know what she looks like in a full season where people don't really love her at the end. We know what she looks like in a season where the fans are all rooting for her, but she put herself in a horrible strategic position. And then we've seen her kind of play more like a straight-laced Big Brother game, join a big alliance and try to run it down. We've seen all of that from Danny. We've seen none of that from Haley. So I totally understand why you would pick Haley, you would pick Danny over Haley. Now, to that same point, you don't see as many of Haley's deficits either and her weaknesses. We've seen Danny play 3 times and she hasn't won. There's a reasonable, I guess a reasonable thought process to say maybe if Haley played again, she could win. Haley is not unlike Nicole Franzel to me in that first game that they played, where it's like they are the ones who are like, they're the like leading opposition against the big alliance. They're the last person standing in their alliance, really beating the drum. Like, no, y'all, we have to flip this. It's they're just wiping us out. They're like that great hope that we're all waiting for. And Nicole came back and won, and probably could have won twice had circumstances gone a little differently. And so, yeah, I think that the thought process being out there is fine, but I don't think I could quibble with you putting Danny over Haley, who has done essentially nothing in her Big Brother career. I mean, it wasn't great. It did not go great, y'all. To be the last remaining member of Falte, the bar is in hell. The bar is low, but it's in hell.
We did somehow, I don't know what we did here, Amon, in that episode, but we pulled Haley back into the Big Brother universe. We're taking full credit for it.
Yeah.
Back on YouTube, back talking Big Brother when she's been out of the loop for years. So I don't know, she heard the bat signal or saw the bat signals go off, and she answered the call. So go subscribe to Haley on YouTube if you were looking for some more Haley content.
That's y'all need to get on y'all's podcast. Y'all need to get Haley while she's out here talking. Yeah.
I was about to say, like,
are people going to come on when they've already been eliminated?
She don't have to know. She's not going to listen to all of it. Just tell her that, girl, you in the running? Sure. See what happens.
But you know what? There is the possibility that people can get brought back eventually. So,
yes,
she is gone, but she's not gone for good. Okay. So,
ooh, battle backs.
There's still a little bit of a chance.
Yes.
So yeah, but I'm really excited to get some of her content back. I did want to say, Matt and I talked about this a little earlier, and this is sort of like jumping off of the conversation that we are having about, like, how people sort of like perceive, how we're judging these Big Brother players and all of that. I want to stress, like, yes, like part of the point of this podcast is to sort of like garner up a little bit of contention and to really, as Chappell said, people's metrics for what they deem to be a good Big Brother player or the best Big Brother player are going to differ. That's the point of the podcast, is to really get down to that nitty gritty and see where that sort of like rubs up against one another. But I want to stress, like, this can have the potential to dredge up some of the things that we don't like about some of these players. But I urge all of you to try to keep it as respectful as possible. You don't need to start tagging past Big Brother players or bringing up old conflicts that have been long since resolved or that have died down years on end ago, and just bringing all this negativity back. We want to keep it light. We want to keep it fun. We want to we'll throw a little shade here and there, but just want to make sure that we are being as respectful as possible and not harassing these players just because, or harassing us just because your faves get cut. Like,
yeah, especially
having fun, and it's it is what it is.
Especially like in the comments of these videos, like if you're like, oh, I would have put, so-and-so over so-and-so, I would have voted this way, that way because of these reasons, like totally fine. But when it starts to be like, oh, I hate this person because they this and they that, and they're horrible or whatever. I mean, look, I get there's a lot of controversial Big Brother players out there, but I don't know. It's just like to a certain extent, especially like, I mean, YouTube has guidelines. Like they start seeing all these like, nasty ass comments, like they're going to not be happy with us. And we're trying to not not create this environment of, hate and all that kind of stuff. Like Iman said, to like bring back, like we all went through BBOTT. We don't need to relive it in terms of having the stand-ups come back out in some way.
BB21,
Yeah.
BB9. Like,
now watch the wheel y'all spin. The key wheel is about to spit out some BB15 people, and you're gonna have to take back everything you just said because I'm gonna be unfiltered.
Well, that brings us to the last matchup.
Episode. Yeah.
Yeah, that brings us to the last matchup. We had Scott Dennis from BBOTT versus McCrae Olsen of BB15 fame. Which I felt like out of the 3 matchups that we had last episode were sort of like, that was the one that was sort of like the most, where they had like characters that were kind of like the most comparable. They're kind of like both in like the nerdy type area. So I was really interested in to see where that would go. But obviously, well, who do you think went through?
I don't know. My knee-jerk reaction is McCrae, but it's more because I don't really know Scott's game very closely. And I know that McCrae had some good ideas. He was a part of the big alliance, and Andy cooked him up at the end, but McCrae and Amanda made a good run into that game. So I don't know much about Scott. So who did y'all pick?
It was McCrae in a 3-0 vote.
There you go. I mean, I make me number 4. Yeah.
So yeah, those are the well, actually no, we didn't like specifically go over Yvette versus Mark. I think was a pretty controversial one as far as people being back and forth. That was the one that ended up on Twitter as people voted for Yvette, even though Mark went through here. So Chappell, I guess, put on the record, who would you have voted through? Yvette BB6 or Mark Jansen BB19?
That was fun to listen to. I mean, I don't see a world where Mark could have made it to the end of Big Brother, but Mark also was going up against a returning player who had a ridiculous advantage over everybody. Not just a regular, like a ridiculous advantage. To be fair, Yvette had somebody in the game that she knew in Bo. So, I mean, they both kind of had a leg up, but something about playing against Paul and making it as far as Mark did makes me want to lean toward Mark a little bit. Yvette made it far, but I just don't see who Yvette was going to beat at the end, whereas Mark probably had some outs.
Yeah, I saw a couple of people talking about if Yvette played a little differently, then, maybe something. I mean, but she didn't play differently, so I don't know.
Her own allies didn't like her, and not to say that Mark was popular with his allies either, but, if you get to the end and they're like, nah, we're good, and again, I don't really see the person she could have sat by who she would have beaten, so that said, I have to lean toward Mark, but I think it was a fun conversation regardless, and I think that's the point.
That's the point of this silly podcast here, to match up people that have never been in one singular, in the same conversation in any of our Big Brother talks that we've had, on air, off air. So, are we ready to find out who our first matchup is going to be here for this 3rd episode? I love the nerves. Love when the nerves kick in. Chappell, who are you hoping for to come up here?
Oh God.
Season wise or player wise, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, season wise, I'm pretty knowledgeable about some seasons. I would like to avoid some of the seasons I don't really know. So maybe like I don't really know a lot of the red shirts in Big Brother 4. I don't really know a lot of the Big Brother 8 and 9 people, but aside from that, I should be solid.
I mean, if you didn't know them that much, you could have told me to take them off. But hopefully,
I mean, again, I know them enough to talk about them, but not enough to really go to bat for some of them people. But again, I'm ready to see what happens.
Aman, we do have for the first time in this podcast, we have some BB Can and BB Celeb included in this wheel today.
Yes, this wheel is packed, baby.
So, I'm hoping for.
Show me Candy Burst. Let's do it.
I'm deep in my RHOA binge and would love for that conversation to happen. Let's do it. Let's find out the first player being pulled here for episode 3 with our special guest, Chappell. Away we go with the spin. And we're going to try to remember to say the name out loud.
Come on, Ross Matthews. Give me this one. Let me give my boy his flowers. Let me get him his flowers.
A nice long spin here. Leads us to, honestly, I think his name just passed by.
Shit.
We have Bunky. Big Brother 2. Bunky.
Oh, Bunky. Wow.
Our first peek into the world of Big Brother 2.
We are back in the day, honey. All right, so I've got Bunky's little wiki paragraph pulled up. Let's get into it. Bunky is notable for being the first openly gay house guest in Big Brother US history. He was initially apprehensive about revealing this fact, but he slowly revealed it to everyone in the house, including conservative Kent, whom he formed an unlikely friendship with. During week 8, he was nominated alongside Will by HOH Hardy, and after Will told Hardy he wouldn't nominate him if he stayed, Bunky's fate was sealed after Hardy cast the tiebreaker vote to evict him. Bunky placed 5th. Bunky was one of 4 BB2 candidates eligible to return for BB7. However, he was not selected.
A travesty.
A travesty, yes.
I've met Bunky once, and
did you?
No way.
Yeah. So Jacob Jones and I went to a celebrity boxing match with Big Brother players from BBUS and BB Canada, and I was staring at the ring, and then out the corner of my eye I saw Bunky walking like past us, and then that's when I realized, oh, I do have the ability to be starstruck by somebody. You know, like prior to that, I don't think it's ever happened to me, but in that moment I was like, am I stuck on, like, I grew up watching Bunky on television. Like, this is like a childhood person that I've known forever in my mind. So I spoke to Bunky. He was very nice. He kissed me on the cheek. I felt like I was pregnant. It was a whole thing. But no, for the most part, love Bunky. But also, you see the stats on the board. Not a lot to talk about there as far as gameplay wise. So I'm hoping that you throw Bunky a layup so he can go on to the next round. That would be fun.
So yeah, obviously the thing that I think the most people remember about Bunky is his unlikely, as it is called, relationship that he had with Kent, who rest in peace, Kent, who comes into the house and is probably seemingly never had a gay friend before and is like, I like this guy, very Survivor season 1 here in Big Brother 2. But as far as gameplay goes, I feel like I remember, seeing him be very social with a lot of the people in the house, but also play very emotionally, if I'm recalling correctly. I feel like, alongside, there were obviously, big players in the house. You had your Hardys and your Wills and your Nicoles that were like kind of moving the pieces around the board. And, I feel like Bunky was included in a lot of conversations or maybe like small versions of alliances that took place in BB2 that were happening, but certainly not the most active player from that season, Amon.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly was. I think he was social, which is interesting because I feel like he spent a while hiding a lot of his own identity from his house guest. What the first person that he did end up telling was Autumn, who also is in recent Big Brother news, not for like anything particularly amazing. But I do feel like he found himself in a lot of alliances that were sort of getting formed around him, but people liked him enough because he was sociable enough to be included in a lot of those alliances. And I think that also like having like a target in Chilltown as early in the game as like a lot of them did, I think that helped sort of like solidify him into like as like one of the staple, this is a guy that we need on our side for votes. So I think while he wasn't like as instrumental in like steering the game, I think that he definitely his strength was that he was always wanted nearby by the people that were in power or at least making an attempt to steer the game.
Yeah. Bunky makes it through all the way to week 8 in BB2, not being put on the block once. The week that he does get put up, it's Hardy as HOH. He goes on the block against Will. Of course, this is pre any kind of power veto being available to use. So, so Hardy is working throughout most of that game with Nicole and Monica, right? And then towards the end of the game, Will's being used as a pawn consistently in some weird way where you're looking back on it now, you're like, how was this man the pawn, as often as he was and not the target? But that's the magic of Will Kirby, especially season 2. And when Bunky goes up, I want to say it was because he was Hardy was talking about him as a comp threat because maybe he had won like a luxury competition or something the week before, or recently.
He had
before
won.
That.
I think he had won. I think he was helpful in winning at least 2 of those. He had won like a laundry comp or something, and I forget the other. I'm taking a look at the wiki right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, it's also just the fact that as far as I can remember that Hardy was closely working with a lot of other people, a lot, as in
Besides him,
three
yeah.
other people that were not Bunky. And, Will goes on the block as well, but he's Dr. Will, and there's a reason he stayed when he was on the block each week that he was on the block. So, but yeah, I mean, look, it sounds like Bunky's social game is still going pretty strong, especially with, somebody on this call here right now. So.
Yeah, big Bunky fan. I again didn't realize it until I saw him in real life, and it felt like I was meeting somebody who was larger than life that I'd met on television before, like that I'd seen on television. But as far as Bunky, the Big Brother player, I think there's a lot to be desired. I also think that was season 2. Many of these people did not know what they were doing. Matter of fact, they were inventing the game. Season 1 does not count. So season 2 being the first season, Bunky was trying to figure out where he fit in, and then the strategy, right? And I think a lot of people were picking up on the strategy secondary. Bunky being the only openly gay man in the house, it's like, hey, he doesn't really have a lot of people to bond with on that. He's navigating, trying to keep that to himself, trying to deal with the whole Kent of it all, finding this new bestie who might be a little biggity, and really come into terms with that while Big Brother is happening, and so I try to be a little bit more graceful when it comes to talking about Bunky's game, because a lot of these Big Brother 2 players were just kind of in no man's land.
Yeah, if he were to come back in BB7, that would have been, first of all, I would have enjoyed it from an entertainment perspective. I mean, as far as like the old guy in the house, of course, we end up with Chicken George. Imagining a world where we had Chicken George and Bunky in the house together. I don't necessarily know who is not in the house in places of that. Like, is he taking Jace's spot? I don't really know how that all would work out. They were all voted into BB7, of course. But if he ends up in there, I feel like my gut tells me he would have landed in the pre-jury alongside, the Dianes and the Comases of the world, of just kind of like not really included with the, the Sovereign Six or with Chilltown, obviously. I mean, Chilltown knew him. You would think that maybe there would be a natural connection to Bunky, but I don't know their dynamics at the time and what their relationships were at the time, but just like based off watching it, I feel like they would have just said, we're focused on us and, moving our pieces around the board in the way that they did and not having like this attachment to them. I don't know.
I feel like he's safe.
That's fair.
No, I feel like he's safe, and I think if he comes back for All Stars, I think you have Mike and Will that are like largely moving the strategy of the game, but they're not targeting Bunky. Why would they target Bunky? What is he going to do? He's not going to come after them. They know him in real life. They've already played with him before.
One thing that I was just reminded about as I scroll the wiki as well is that Will voided Bunky's vote. Did I say vote? Vote in the final vote. So back then
he correctly voided his vote because he knew Bunky was voting for Nicole.
Yes. So the Nicole votes ended up being Hardy, Bunky, who had his vote taken away, and Autumn. And then Nicole voided Shannon's vote, which was a very obvious move there. But I mean, if Bunky wasn't voting for Will in that time, you think he was sticking by Will throughout BB7 and not working on an opposition side?
Hey, I think once you see the people from BB6 show up and they're all this huge coalition, I think you got to grasp for whatever you have. And I think maybe that galvanizes them a little bit, but you make fair points. Maybe Bunky is kind of bitter about the first time they played. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, there's Bunky.
There's Bunky.
Do you have any final Bunky thoughts before we find out who Bunky's going to be matched up against here?
Send us a layup, please. Send me oh man, what's his name? He was in Frenchie season. Was it Jace?
It was
Jace? No.
Who went home? Isn't there a Jace that went home first?
Travis. BB23?
Travis.
Is it 20? No, it'll come to me. Me. But there's a guy. Yeah, I'm thinking of him. I want him up against Bunky so I can instantly put Bunky through to the next round.
There's a guy out there. Somebody will send Bunky through. Look, I feel like when McRae came up in the last podcast, we were thinking whoever came up next might have been sending and packing, but you really never know who's coming up next. So
you never know.
Let's find out, shall we? Spin the wheel for the matchup.
Spin it.
Second half of this matchup. Let's find out who Bunky is up against. I think I made this 19 seconds. I don't know.
It's fine. It's the suspense of it all.
We have.
Jace from BB 17. That's who it was. I'm sorry.
Michelle from, I think, BB4. I think that's who this Michelle. Marity.
I believe that is BB4. I
I
believe
think it's
so.
Michelle from BB4. Chappell, I think you might get your wish here, but so Michelle, yeah, right from BB4.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
her.
I'm
Yeah.
pulling it up right now.
Our third boot from BB4 after the mess of what happens on BB4 with one person getting expelled from the game and then Amanda getting voted out first. Then goes Michelle.
Yes. So, as far as her Big Brother wiki is concerned, Michelle played a quiet game, not making any big moves. She attempted to align with Nathan and G, the former of whom kept her safe during the first week while he was HOH. She seemed to be in a good position as neither sides of the house were targeting her, but after G won HOH, he decided to nominate her as a pawn to evict Erica, not realizing Erica was protected by the Elite Eight. Thinking she was safe, Michelle chose not to campaign for herself. Nathan decided to turn on Michelle and vote to evict her. Michelle was evicted 6-2, placing 11th.
Let's
Chappelle,
go, Bunky!
Chappelle, you remember this woman?
Yeah! Yes, I do remember this lady. I will give Michelle some credit here. She was the youngest house guest to ever play Big Brother. I think she was the first one under 21, and she was 19. Yeah. So she's in there with some grown ass people who are in whole ass relationships with each other. Probably like their exes are in the house. It was a mess. However, she did nothing in the game. She thought she was good. She didn't campaign. Classic Big Brother mistakes. They start here with Michelle. This is a like a strategy that we know doesn't work. You always campaign for yourself at least a little bit. You got to have something in the works, or people won't keep you. And Michelle made one of those classic errors where she was like, "I'm good. Nathan's got me," and he didn't. So yeah, not a lot to say here for Michelle, but I do appreciate her coming on at 19 years old and playing this incredible game and being one of the people who paved the way. But to me, I think my guy Bunky's going through, and I'm excited. Hey.
I don't know. We have to think about what we would have seen from Michelle if she had lasted a little bit longer. Aman, I feel like BB4 isn't one of your strongest points in Big Brother history, so I'm not sure where Michelle fits into what led you to Big Brother in general.
I mean, I think as far as her game is like, look, again, she was young. And the game still, a Big Brother was still burgeoning at this point. People were really starting to understand what types of moves and preemptive moves constitute a good defensive game in Big Brother. And I think the overarching narrative of, I just need to sit back and let the other person destroy themselves was still very much a thing at this point in time. And yeah, that doesn't always work. I can see why you might want to do that, but it doesn't always work. And you have to campaign to more than just the people that you already know that you have. You got to talk to the people that you know that you don't have, because how else are you going to get the votes to stay? So I feel like that killer instinct isn't really there in this game. That didn't really last too long. Like, what was it? Like 13 days of game or 19 games of game. So, if she comes back and plays a similar game, does that mean like every time that she's on the block, she's just not going to campaign?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And she had her ex in the house. David was there, and so I think that's kind of it's not a common thing to deal with in Big Brother. So, like I said, I don't want to come here shitting on nobody. I think that there are pros and cons to probably coming in at such a young age and also coming in with an ex. But at the same time, you had a built-in potential alliance partner or a built-in enemy, so it's really hard to tell. Michelle, however, was not able to capitalize on that, and that's all we have to go off of. She didn't give us a lot of screen time either, That's Michelle.
Yeah, and David ends up being the one right out the door right after her. I think Aman was touching on this with the blurb that we pull from the wikis, but yeah, ends up on the block obviously week 2. G as the HOH. It's her and Erica on the block together. David wins the veto, and so David had the veto, didn't use it on Michelle. And there she goes. I specifically just kind of remember her being a non-entity in the house. Somebody who, as the game was forming, you had alliances forming that was like the anti-exes coalition of people that were looking to, go against the exes in the way that, when the veterans come in like BB13 or anytime that you have, returning players come in, not that these were returning players, but just a group of like outsiders that is seen as different from the cast initially. So you're like, oh, let's get them all out. So that group bands together. And then as time goes on, you have these other alliances that form, like the G, Robert, Justin group that pulls in Dana and whatnot. And you have, all these different pockets in the house that are kind of forming to, set the game up as it was going to play out. And you have, of course, the floaters, the Junes and Allisons, and all of these people that are, kind of coming together to their own conclusions and within their groups. And Michelle just completely fell by the wayside. She wasn't involved in any of this. You have the stronger players, the winner, like June or Allison, like these people that are not looking at her as somebody that they can work with alongside, any of these power groups. Like they want to get in with the power each week, whether it's getting in with the group or just following along with the power, like obviously June and Allison did throughout that game. So Michelle just didn't really fit in anywhere, and she wasn't able to get herself a spot. Nobody was looking to pull her into a spot, and for 19 days played, if you can't find yourself a spot,
yeah,
I
think we should probably start coining a term for non-entity players. Just call them NEPs. And I feel like most of these NEPs, the only way that they're going to be able to get through is if they're up against another NEP.
Yeah, so, exactly. And which is wild because that's exactly what I was hoping for Bunky. Not to say that Bunky is an NEP, but got some big NEP energy going on. And so we had the perfect setup for my boy to go to the second round.
I mean, Chappell, you sound like you have your mind made up here.
Well, what is there to talk about? Well, Michelle did not really get her feet planted in the game really good. She didn't really get in any alliances. She didn't win any competitions, meaning she doesn't get any votes. So there's a lot to say about what she's not able to do. Whereas with Bunky, we at least know Bunky won a bunch of competitions. That none of them that really mattered, but a bunch of food and luxury comps for sure. We know Bunky was in an alliance. Bunky had several people that really liked him, and so I got to give it to Bunky.
All right. Aman, do you have a call?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we praised Bunky for the most is his sociability, and I think for Michelle, she seemed like she was a sweet girl, but didn't really use her social game to the best of her ability. Quite literally, didn't campaign to stay. So I think that this really can only go one way. Bunky, baby.
All right. Well, we're back on our 3 for 3-ish here on the diary room. It doesn't seem particularly close. It's not like you're having a competition of some of the strongest players, the strongest minds in BB history, and it's very interesting that this ended up being early seasons going at war with each other here with the BB2 versus BB4. But Michelle, as what'd you say? What's an NEP?
NEP. I like it. I like
giving NEM, Natalie Eva Marie. Maybe she'll come up.
Maybe she will. That's a fun to talk about.
But she, doesn't give you much of anything to really work with. While at least, if Bunky's playing emotionally, okay, that's one thing. But also, again, like we've been saying, there's a social game there that, doesn't exist as strongly with Michelle. So it looks like Bunky is moving on to round 2.
Round 2, baby. Come on, Bunky. Come
Bunky.
On. Happy belated Pride Month, everybody.
That's what I'm talking about. Go off, Bunky.
And we turn back to the wheel for the beginning of matchup number 2. Bunky fans worldwide are throwing parties, cheering.
Yeah. Show me.
Bunky gave
Ricky
him that
Williams.
kiss on the cheek, bribed him.
Give me Ricky Williams versus I don't know yet.
The wheel comes to a stop here, and we have our next player. Is it BB Cam?
Omarosa!
Yes! Not BB Cam, but some BB celeb here. BB celebrity in the house.
Yeah. Give me a reason to put Omarosa through to the next round. Just give me a reason.
Oh my gosh. Every episode, I feel like we've had like a big name, and so far that hasn't let us down. I appreciate that from the wheel here.
Honestly, I did not see that one coming.
Omarosa.
So cool.
Our first BB celeb representation here. Aman, remind us some brief facts about Omarosa's game.
Yes, Omarosa coming in as one of the biggest reality television villains. Omarosa found herself on the outs at the first eviction and nominated at the second nomination ceremony, but managed to get off the other's radar by using her social game and skills to manipulate the majority of the house guests. She took out big targets such as Shannon and James. Throughout the season, she talked about her time in the White House, and at the final 5, she was evicted in a unanimous 2-0 vote, placing 5th.
Chappell, we have seen Omarosa compete on Celebrity Big Brother now. We've seen her probably compete on other shows that I've never even watched. I know she was doing, reality competition for long before she ended up on Celebrity Big Brother, which, as far as reality TV goes, put her on my radar. And then coming up into House of Villains as well. And she's, I think, about to be on another show that either filmed already or is filming for Hulu. So Omarosa staying in this space, which makes a lot of sense because she knows what she's doing in this space.
Yeah, and I don't know if y'all remember, but this was during the Trump administration.
Oh,
so
yes.
we all wanted to know what Omarosa knew. That was the topic. Okay. It was, what is she gonna say in the House? Everything that she said in the House became a headline on a website because it was like, and what was Donald Trump thinking this day? And then what did he say? And did he fire you or did he not fire you? Or what was it? And I mean, people were tuning in. This was the perfect, like stunt casting for Celebrity Big Brother, as if it isn't completely stunt casting, but finding Omarosa during that time was perfection. She is from The Apprentice. She puts Donald Trump as a host of reality shows on the map, because what is The Apprentice without Omarosa? So yeah, watching her play Big Brother was so much fun because Omarosa had some game, this is Celebrity Big Brother, so it's a lot faster. But very early on, she would have been a very easy target. She's not, she's kind of prickly, I will say that. So people could have easily banded together and got her out. But Omarosa, she's a scrappy one, I believe she formed an early alliance with, was it Keisha that season?
Yes.
No, yeah. And
she was with Keisha, but then Keisha had to go home for certain reasons.
And she had an alliance with Shannon, to be fair. I mean, she ended up getting Shannon out of the game too, but she did, they tried to get something together, and then it sort of started to fall apart. And then I remember that whole thing where she accused Shannon of trying to have an all-white girls alliance, and Shannon was just like, no, I swear that it's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with that. I promise.
Yes. Meanwhile, Omarosa was walking around with the Black Girl Magic Alliance, her and Keisha.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Omarosa's a beast. I would love to see who she's gonna go up against.
It's funny how it happened on House of Villains too. I feel like it definitely happened on Celebrity Big Brother, of her being harmed in some capacity and saying that she can't compete in certain competitions. I mean, it definitely happened on House of Villains, getting some kind of injured and being like, yeah, I can't compete as strongly, because wasn't it the beginning that she go to the hospital or something early on?
She had a whole
it was
brace on or something.
Yeah, it was right after the HOH comp that she wasn't going to win anyway, and then she dramatically goes to the diary room and starts banging on the door like, medic, I need a medic. I'm like,
yeah.
And people thought she might not have even come back to the house after that, because who knew how badly she was injured. This is kind of close to the Christmas of it all, right? So you're worried about things like that happening. It's the door is open to people leaving and coming back, whether they're injured or not. But yeah, so game wise, remembering how things went for her. So she ends up on the block next to Keisha in that second round with Ross's HOH. Of course, Keisha is going to send herself home. She ends up as HOH in one of the following weeks. Yeah, they did. That's she ends up as HOH in one, 2 weeks later, 2 rounds later, puts up Brandy and Ross. Ross wins the veto, and Meta is going to then take this opportunity to say, peace out, get me out of here. She wins another HOH 2 more rounds later and takes a shot here at Marissa and Ross, who was obviously the duo that was running the season, ends up all the way at the end of the game. But Ross won the veto again, and the next best option at that point is to then take out James Maslow, who's going to get evicted in that spot. Next round comes Ross's HOH, Omarosa and Ariadna on the block. Ross wins the veto, again, keeps nominations the same. Omarosa is evicted by Marissa and Mark McGrath's votes, and sends her home in 5th place on finale night. But she made it to the end.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm completely off topic. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think what Omarosa really has going for her is the tenacity of it all and the killer instinct of it all, and the ability to adapt, because she was on the outs. I mean, we all remember that iconic moment when they were trying to save Chuck, and Meta World Peace votes Chuck out of the house.
I vote Chuck.
Keisha and Omarosa are like, no, you voted for Chuck to go, and so they were completely just done. But I think that she, far be it from me to like give somebody props for working for Trump, but I think one of the reasons why she was considered an asset during that administration is because she does know how to talk. She does know how to make other people look worse than she is. She's not afraid to go down into the gutter, and she's not afraid to embrace that sort of like villainous role and make it work for her. It's like, look, you already know I'm evil, but I'm gonna come for you at some point. I remember her always sort of like using that strategy. I'm gonna come for you at some point, but I'm not gonna do it now. But you don't know what they're gonna do, so maybe you should just work with me for a little bit longer. Keep me around for a little bit longer. We can duke it out, but get rid of the people that you don't know what they're doing. Okay, so she was. It was really fun to watch. It was aggravating at times.
Oh yeah,
but it was fun.
Her conversations with Ross, there was Ross being like the bigger power player of that group of the season. The two of them going back and forth in strategy talks were always worthwhile to watch.
And we saw her play House of Villains as well, and so we know that she's competitive in many different aspects. She understands how a game like Big Brother works. So it'd be tough to beat Omarosa if you're an NEP, but I would love to see her come up against some good competition. And I will say this will be the last complimentary thing I say about Omarosa, because I try not to compliment too many Republicans, but Omarosa is a baddie. She a baddie. I was like, at 50, I said, dear God, okay, girl, I see you. I didn't know. I wasn't familiar with her work. I said, okay, I'm gonna see you back there. All right. That's all.
Game wise, to get back on that track. Any comparison? Am I onto anything comparing her to somebody else who's already come up on this bracket already? Any Danny Donato in here? Danny Briones? Like, just I'm thinking along the lines of like, knows the game, gets the game, is ready to go in with a plan and play hard, but it's not always going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she needs to. I mean, granted, it is a shorter season, so being able to win 2 HOHs in like a 3-week season, okay, that's maybe that's a little comparable to, let's say, Danny winning. I don't know, like maybe she had won a few more comps. Maybe I'll be willing to give that to her. She definitely has that badass, that bad bitch energy for sure. But I think that's fair to say. I think I would throw them that they're more alike than they are not in terms of Big Brother, not in terms of other things.
I'd say Omarosa's probably a bit more measured than Danny. Like she's very calculated. Whereas like sometimes I was like, Danny, girl, what are you doing? And I don't think I ever felt like that in any game with Omarosa. And I've seen her play multiple games. Every time you can kind of see the through line. Whereas like Danny, sometimes you're like, well, what are you talking? What, Danny? No, don't do that. And I don't think I've ever had a moment like that with Omarosa.
See, in my head, I'm like, God.
I was gonna say Omarosa is definitely a villain, whereas I feel like Danny is more of an anti-hero.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, in my head, I'm picturing Omarosa again after every time she gets injured, being like, well, because of this and because of that, like, just making excuses for herself. And then I also, again, just kind of dipped my toes back into some BB13, watching Danny after Dick goes, is taking himself out of the game for reasons. She's like, well, this isn't even fair anymore. I don't have a partner. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't even compete for 4 weeks. I'm safe because of this and that. Like, what am I even supposed to do here? And I'm like, similar, so, dotted line. Not an exact line, but okay, let's find out who we are going to see in this matchup here against Omarosa.
Show
Chappell,
me Jesse Goddard's.
Chappell, you think it has to be an NEP in order for her to go through?
No, I actually would like to see her go up against somebody tough. I just think if she's going to clean up any NEP, so I would love to see her against somebody. Show me Spectacular. Give me that guy.
All right, let's find out. Let's get the wheel spinning. We've gotten our first celebrity Big Brother contestant. Still no.
It'd be awful if it's like Alyssa Slater. Here. That would be tough. Okay.
Well, let's find out. Omarosa is going to be matched up against.
This wheel is so cool.
Britney D'Angelo.
Yeah, baby.
Big Brother 23.
Yes, Britney, Brat. Okay.
Britney D'Angelo versus Omarosa.
This is gonna be fun.
Brittini.
The way that I don't know who said that recently, but whoever said that put that in my head, and now anytime I write her name down,
which
is more often than not because of this podcast.
Get the mental image of a martini glass every damn time. It's sick. Britney was often used as an easy nomination, especially as one of the few house guests not part of the majority cookout or royal flush alliances. With Kylan winning HOH once more in week 6, she brokered a deal with him to keep each other safe, which he initially accepted. His cookout allies convinced him that Britney was the biggest threat. In the BB Bucks twist in the high roller room, Britney received the highest amount of $100 from the fans that felt confident she didn't need to spend them. The possibility of her using the money to win game advantages in the following weeks only made her more threatening. Britney was made as the replacement nominee and was evicted by a 7-1 vote.
Okay. Britney. Yeah, look, BB23 is not Britney's story.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
it's not.
And that's unfortunate because that's what we have to go off of on her gameplay. So I'm really trying to think of the moments that Britney had, the intangibles, right? Because we're looking at HOH and vetoes, and she just didn't stand a chance in some of those. Of course, we are all very impressed by the veto that she did win. But as far as like her intangibles, she was able to make some allies, in Derek F and Azza. Like they really were going to bat for her, to be fair. They were on the same team, they were broken up into teams anyway, so that was probably not even organic. That just kind of happened. But Britney's very likable. She's very athletic. I think the problem is that we haven't seen anything from Britney to show that she has any type of strategic chops. And sometimes I think she could be socially unaware, whereas I think Omarosa is always aware. I think Omarosa always knows who she is. I think Britney, she was like the one who was like knocking on the door and the showman's is in there. And she's like, what are y'all in here doing? Yeah, exactly.
Image / GIF.
Yeah, in the night vision. Yeah, exactly. And see, that's just the energy I get from Britney. So like if I had to draft one of these people to go far in any season, I don't think either one of them can win. But I think I could go with Omarosa to get to the end. I don't think Britney's making it to the end often.
Yeah, she certainly stands out as somebody. I don't know if this is like post show TikTok of it all that's kind of like clouding my vision of her, that she's just got like this very big, bright, bubbly personality. I would say that was probably a bit diminished in the house, as she ended up on the block way more often than she wanted to, 4 times total. And yeah, you mentioned the Azza and Derek F relationships that, of course that was because they had been on the same team, but it carried over into like Azza being the most protective, older sister that you would ever want by your side in this game. Where everybody in the cookout, of course, or most people in the cookout had their +1, or people that they had as add-ons to, that was the point of the project there. And Britney, while being a number for the two of them, just, I don't know, like the social game was there where again Azza was going to bat for her, but it was also just Azza. At the end of the day, I don't remember Derek F also being as much like Azza was of like pushing. Like if you get to a final 7 and swap out Tiffany and Claire for Azza as HOH and Britney, I mean, I know the cookout's mission was what the cookout's mission was, and I still ultimately think that, Azza would have done the same thing Tiffany did, but I almost feel like it would have been so much harder for Azza because of how much she fought for Britney in that game.
Yeah, I think BB23 is definitely going to be very interesting when it comes to rating or matching up a few of these players, because of the fact that the cookout was just like a foregone conclusion about what was going to happen no matter what with the 6 of them. So it makes it really hard to sort of like really parse out like what does Britney's game look like, because she ultimately, like, again, as the wiki stated, she was an easy target. Like you put her up next to Frenchie, we want Frenchie gone. Put her up next to Brent, we want Brent gone. You know what I mean? Put her up next to whoever else she was next to. Derek F at some point. Derek F was never going to go. So it's just like, I think that she was always in battle mode, and it like really, really broke her down. I remember like people online being like, just get her out of there, because
it's me. I was them. I said, get her out.
Because it's just never going to go the way that she wants it to go. But to her credit, she never gave up. She always gave it her all in all of those veto competitions. She was not afraid to talk that crap about Colin, like specifically calling him a bitch in one of the DRs. Like, so I think that drive to win is definitely there. I just think that because even the members of her own team in Azza and DF were keeping her in the dark about so much what was going on, there really wasn't anywhere for her to go, unless they had the wherewithal, and not just Britney, but a lot of these players in Paper 23, if they had the wherewithal to sort of which is very dicey because it's like, no one wants to accuse all the black people of working together, right? So it kind of like limits you in what you can say. But maybe if there was a way for them to be like, I wonder if this could be happening. I'm not going to vocalize it, but if I win, I'm going to throw up Arthur and Xavier and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that never really happened for her.
I think the alternative is make yourself look useful, and I think that's the reason why Derek X does he outlasts her, right? Because they look at him as somebody they can weaponize, whereas Britney had only won that veto competition to save her life one time. Yeah. She hadn't won any HOHs, and I think we have to hold that against her, because I think that even in a situation where you are up against the cookout, if you win stuff, they can't get you. And so for Britney, she just wasn't winning enough, and she had plenty of opportunities because she was on the block every week for the most part. So yeah, it was tough, but I don't know. Britney's game, maybe in a different season, she would have done better. Who knows?
I almost feel like, and I'm not making the exact comparison that I just made from Omarosa to Danny, but I feel like this matchup is giving me similar vibes where Haley, in that matchup is somebody who, we saw go up against this dominant force, and Haley was never going to stand a chance with the people she was working with and all that stuff. And Britney here, not that dissimilar of like what we're talking about here. I mean, because the way that matchup went, and I was talking about this at the beginning of the podcast of maybe having some regrets about the way that I voted, because Omarosa, I feel like, just to kind of get into, the debate of it all between these two players, Omarosa is somebody that I feel like can very much strong arm, a lot of players that she'll play with into, getting her way to the end by sheer nature of being such a powerful force in these games. And like, it does, we saw how it worked out in Celeb, and, a lot of the times I feel like people are going to catch on to her and not let her get that far in the first place. But someone like Britney, maybe in another season than the one that she was in, can like turn it on at a certain point. And if she's working with an ally that is like, a strong number one alongside of her, I wonder if she can go deep and then get the votes in the end. I feel like I can almost see that more than I can see for Omarosa, but I still view Omarosa as a stronger Big Brother player. So that's where these matchups get tough. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to be like, I feel like Omarosa almost seems like the obvious answer, but in my head, I feel like there's more back and forth to it than meets the eye.
Maybe, but I wish you wouldn't beat yourself up about that Haley thing. Like, Haley was a part of the worst alliance of all time, okay. and she did not help. She also was bad in the alliance. You have to let that go. She made some mistakes, and you can hold those against her. I think the thing is, Britney, she never had a chance to make any moves. She didn't win. She was never in power. She was always at the mercy of the cookout. Whereas Omarosa, when she didn't have a chance to make moves, she made them out of whatever she had. She should not have made it as far as she did in that game, and she did. Whereas I'd argue that Britney probably should make the jury most times, but she didn't. And so, that's probably my takeaway, and that's kind of how I'm going to look at this matchup.
Wasn't she first on jury? I think she was.
I think she was first on jury, but I mean, again, by the hair of her chinny chin chin, yeah.
Britney also, somebody who I think she was mostly in the house as well, opened up about her struggles of like, she is on the spectrum, I think is.
I don't think she did it until after the season, didn't she? Did she hold that until the finale? I don't know why I feel like she waited to talk about that.
Did.
Yeah, I guess like
I think we knew it, but she didn't. Yeah, that they didn't know it. I think that's what it was.
I mean, obviously, regardless of when she said it, like, that's something that she has, in the house that she's contending with, that not everybody in the house does. Eventually we're gonna have Kyland also open up about his experience with that as well, but just like another factor as to what goes into her as a player in these games, and the struggles that she has to face alongside, as well as having a dominant alliance in the house that she was never going to, be up against. I do think that there is more potential in Britney than, again, meets the eye than maybe we saw. I don't know that we'll ever see it again. She doesn't really stand out as the biggest likely to return type of player. But again, if you are looking for some, fun dances on TikTok, Britney's your girl.
Yeah, she's good.
I don't know. I'm kind of what you were talking about earlier, Matt. It's kind of swayed me just a little bit because I do think because okay, so celebrity is kind of interesting too, because
it is.
I'm trying to think about, like, how do I judge this? Because do I just judge celebrities based off of the metric of Celebrity Big Brother, where they're all on equal footing, or do I say to myself, Omarosa in a vacuum, what type of player is she? And like, how much of how much of the player that she is afforded by the reputation that precedes her. You know what I mean? So that makes it so hard for me to judge, because like if Omarosa was a regular citizen, does she still play the way that she played in Celebrity Big Brother? I would wager to say probably yes, because she wasn't always a celebrity. And she, one of the first stints on reality television that she had was The Apprentice. And she was very much the same as she was years later on Celebrity Big Brother. So I would wager to say, yes, she is someone that's always going to use their own devices to make whatever she can out of whatever. Britney, on the other hand, I do think that she is more amenable to being the person that is friends with everybody, doesn't expect to get nominated. When she is nominated, she'll freak out about it, but she'll do what she needs to do in that veto comp if she can win, and just kind of just like hope that her bubbly charm works. And I don't think that's
is the killer instinct there is what I'm asking myself right now.
I mean,
like, you know,
what
because
base it off of?
Again, suppose it's a different season. Suppose it's not what she's up against there. She gets to the end. Even suppose she gets to the end with, like, you know, a close ally she's been working with. She is so inherently likable that maybe I'm thinking in the back of my mind, well, maybe she gets cut in third 9 out of 10 times if she makes it that far anyway. Because who wants to face off against, you know, the bubbly, dancy personality in Britney in the end? And you know, if I'm looking at her as a person who needs to win that competition to get herself to the final 2 to face a jury, while I see Omarosa as somebody that both has a high likelihood of winning a final competition. I mean, I know she, you know, injured all the time and half compete sometimes. I know what I'm saying there, but also I feel like could strong arm again anybody, you know, at that end to bring her to the end. We've seen what was it? I don't remember how House of Villains exactly ended, but it didn't quite happen in that way for her there. But I feel like there could be times where it does work, where I feel like it's more likely for Britney that it doesn't work. So I think I will be the first to cast my vote, and I going back and forth a lot, and maybe I'll have regrets tomorrow, but I think I got to go Omarosa.
Yeah, I wish I could give Britney's social game as much credit as y'all are, but I remember those dark days. Britney on the Block is not fun. Britney on the Block is not fun. You know, we were all tired. That's why we were like, get her out the house. It wasn't because, you know, like we were, oh, this is so sad for Britney. It was like she was not handling it well. So if Britney manages to make her way to the end, there are going to be people who are not so taken by the bubbly personality at that point. You know, they're like, bruh, what is she doing? You know, whereas like, Omarosa is always going to get to the end or far, but she's never going to have people liking her or rooting for her. It's going to be tough for Omarosa every time. Whereas like Britney, I think it's not going to be easy, you know? So I'm kind of like, for me, I have to go off of what have you done to make me believe that you can do this? And for Britney, there just isn't enough on the baseball card for me to say, all right, you got the skills to take it all the way. We just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So Omarosa for me.
Her likability is kind of what sent her out of the house, because America was like, give her the money, give her the BB bucks. And then the cookout was like, okay, she has to go.
Yeah, she got to go. Yeah.
Aman, one of like the main topics that comes up a lot on the founding idea podcast of this podcast, Gleek of the Week, is Andrew or sometimes guests will throw a pity vote, where the vote's already decided here, but a pity vote will get thrown to the person that is losing this matchup. And people have their opinions over there on the Gleek of the Week about the value or necessary needs of a pity vote. But I feel like this is your first opportunity to decide. Are you going to throw Britney a pity vote or make it 3 for 3?
I feel like, is that infantilization if I throw her the pity vote? Because I feel like that's what people were doing to her all season. Was like, oh, Britney, come here, baby, come here.
I'm just saying, if you were gonna vote for her, if you were thinking about it, you still can. Doesn't mean you have to vote the other way because it's been decided.
Right, I don't vote for Republicans often. I mean, honestly, y'all, I can be swayed. If we don't want to put Omarosa in just for the fact that I don't really love her politics and social, or like her personally, that'd be fine too. I just don't think Britney made a strong a Big Brother player, you know?
Yeah, I feel like unfortunately,
I think that Omarosa should go through, but I am going to give my vote to Britney.
Yes.
Right, so we have our first official pity vote here. We should call it a pity vote.
You should call it that, because that's literally what it was. You call it what it is.
Britney vote. All right. Well, with that all said, as Omarosa moves forward to round 2,
that was fun. I'm trying to think of
That was
what.
Brittini
fun. That was a good
stays
one.
behind. Look, maybe we'll check back in at the end if anybody has a last minute change of heart. I think that like the closing, of the episode should be like the final decision maker. If anybody changes their mind between now and then, it's allowed. Let's spin the wheel
Yeah.
and find out the first name in our final matchup of the day here. I'm still
Give me
hoping
somebody
for BB
good.
Can, but maybe
Show
that's
me
just
Pow
me.
Pow.
Not Pow Pow.
And our next contestant, come on down, is Rachel from BB6.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. That Rachel. Good, good.
Rachel from Big Brother 6.
We're getting a lot of
Um,
early seasons. Good, good, good. We
yeah,
were
Lucky
lacking a
me.
little
BB6,
bit.
of course, very often considered one of the best, if not the best. A lot of people call it the best. Rachel had a very big role in, being on the side of what most people were rooting for, during that season, I would say. But ends up kind of, going out middle of the game before things got even more tense by the end of everything there. Amon, do we have our Rachel notes ready to go?
Yes, we do. All right. Rachel entered the house with Howie as her secret partner. After Rachel won the first HOH, she decided to please the house and target Ashleigh. During week 3, Rachel joined the Sovereign Six Alliance in an attempt to flip the power structure. After Rachel infamously threw the HOH comp to Howie in week 5, Rachel was put into the minority for the remainder of the game as Maggie convinced Howie to turn on James and Sarah. Rachel's game was put in jeopardy after Beau won HOH on day 48. He targeted Howie and Rachel due to them being the last secret pair on the other side of the house. On day 54, Rachel was evicted by a 5-0, placing 8th.
All right. So, Chappell, strong. Well, I guess overall, like, is BB6? Are you in that camp of having it in your favorites?
It's in my favorites. It's not my favorite season. It's not number one, but it's
Okay.
pretty high up. I mean, how can you not like BB6? Rachel was a part of what I would consider the more likable alliance of the two in the Sovereign Six. And she was aligned with what I would consider as probably the least likable person in the Sovereign Six at the time, with Howie. They came in knowing each other, and that put a target on her back because you have to nominate the person next to their secret alliance, and her secret alliance being Howie didn't do her any favors, because if she sits next to Howie on the block, she's always going home 1,000 times out of 1,000, because Howie is just not good at Big Brother. And so for Rachel, she seemed like the more measured of the two. If she can deal with somebody like Howie, I think she can deal with a lot of personalities as well. She won a few competitions. She's fun to talk about. I wonder how she would do up in one of these matchups, though, because her game isn't very flashy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely. That's exactly how I was thinking about her. It's just she was very low key, I guess, in the house, like alongside these people that a lot of big personalities. I mean, look at how many of these people in her alliance are brought back the very next season and are, the legends of Big Brother, in general, not just Big Brother 6 or Big Brother 7. And she kind of falls by the wayside as far as like the legacy of it all goes, where, you talk about that group, you're talking about, again, all of those people that ended up returning and not Rachel as much, but she was certainly there as a part of all of this, but ending up as, we're talking about being part of the last remaining duo, I guess, alongside Howie. It just came down to, I guess, for the people voting, who was the better player. And like you said, this goofball Howie, who's voting to evict him when you have a stronger minded person still as an option to evict there.
Yeah, she kind of reminds me a little bit of, well, I should guess the other way around. I feel like Shelly from BB17 is sort of like the lineage of a Rachel Planker. How do you say her last name? Because she's clearly capable of like winning comps. She has like a bit of like a killer's edge. She found that secret room during week 1. She sort of like she's willing to sort of like weigh the options in terms of like, do I keep these nominations the same after I win this veto, or do I, like what do I think is like the best route for me to take? So she's definitely like, I wouldn't say she's gonna be like iced out, but I do think that in terms of like personality, yes, there are like such stronger players in that house that it is sort of easy for her to get swallowed up. But I think that there's definitely like there's a player in there. There's like there's a way that like I feel like if she comes back, I think there's like I think she does better, if not, the same. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see this matchup because I think that she's definitely like, she's not the worst, but she's not the best, you know?
Yeah, one interesting thing about Rachel is that she was the first HOH. She's the one who sent out Janelle's partner Ashleah, and then her and Janelle going more closely throughout the season. And we know Janelle. Janelle is she's kind of feisty herself, and so for her and Rachel to be able to make up, that says a lot about Rachel's social game because she probably should have been higher on her radar than she was.
But was the Janelle and Ashleah like friendship even that?
I mean,
strong?
were any of them though?
Some of them were.
like,
I mean, you have like Maggie and Cappy and I don't know, like Yvette and April sticking together.
No,
obviously.
April said she barely even knew Yvette. They were just sorority sisters. You know, like I think
together once they were in the house, worked together.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, once the sides kind of divide, they definitely get really tight. But I think that Rachel being able to play nice with Janelle after targeting Janelle's number one ally in the game says a little bit about Rachel. That's all.
Yeah. Obviously she's helped there by the fact that this group comes together, that, Howie alongside Janelle, James, until things get messy with the James of it all and Howie of it all. But yeah, I mean, she's the partner of Howie, the built-in trust is there. When you decide to trust Howie, you have Rachel there as well. I do think that she is definitely, in that, like, if I'm like making like a list, if I'm putting every Big Brother player on this list and you have like the center of the list or of like average players, I feel like she's above that in like a tier, like closer to the very top of that, like, average replacement level type of players, where like I can see a world where she can make a run and, had she not gone out here, ends up going deep with this group. I don't know, maybe if she's on the block against anybody but Howie at a time like that, like maybe she had more potential to make something happen. But yeah, definitely not looking at Rachel as somebody who is just a dud like we've had from no Michelle.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Michelle. Rachel, I do have to hold something against her though. Howie targeting his own ally in the game, I have to look at Rachel and be like, what happened? Because Howie, we know, is kind of erratic and like a wild card. But Rachel, you're supposed to be the level-headed one of that duo, and you let it happen. And I cannot give you a pass for that, because I think that you do a little bit better in the game if you can convince Howie from targeting, what is it, James at that point? Yeah. You let Maggie have more influence over Howie than you. And your whole thing is that you're the Howie wrangler. So Rachel, you're not without fault in that decline as well. So, since we're looking so closely at their games with a microscope, I do have to point that out.
Yeah. With the exception of Falte, I think whenever there is like allies that are targeting one another, you have to sort of like look at the person that is being targeted. It's like, what did you do? What is going on?
Yeah. Am I preemptively getting the wheel ready? I feel like we're running out of Rachel takes.
Do your thing. Yeah.
All right, let's get into finding out who Rachel from Big Brother 6 is matched up against.
I like Rachel. I'm kind of rooting for her on this one. Let's see what happens.
Okay. I don't know if I'm getting my wish of BB Can here. We have to wait till episode 4, I think. But this wheel, it's thick. It's got a lot of names out
Dummy
here.
Thick.
Last name of the episode is going to be
Kaysar.
Kaysar.
Oh wow! Not BB6 versus BB6.
What up, Kaysar?
Oddly enough, if Rachel doesn't win that veto when she does, Kaysar might have survived another week in the game, so just saying, they're tied together in BB history.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Legend arrives in episode 3. We're going to the last couple episodes of it's going to be like a year's worth of this podcast. That's just like early boot versus early boot, because we're getting rid of a lot of legendary names.
And I honestly, I would love to see how this turns out, because I have some opinions about Kaysar's game that people might not like.
You know what? As much as you think people aren't going to like them, I would be surprised if people didn't share those same opinions.
You just can't say them out loud, Matt. That's all.
Well, we might have to here. That's what we're doing today. Amon, remind us about the very unfortunate 4 times that Kaysar has been evicted from the Big Brother house.
Kaysar started BB6 with secret partner Michael, best known for his friendship and close allyship with Janelle and calm leadership status of the Sovereign Six Alliance. Kaysar was able to turn the tides for the Alliance via evicting Eric during his HOH reign. He would be evicted on day 33, but after a viewer vote, he returned to the game. He infamously chose to lose to Jennifer in the pressure cooker after making a deal with her, soon finding himself betrayed and later evicted for a second time. He later returned for BB7, where his Sovereign 6 alliance dominated for the first 4 weeks, but when Danielle won HOH in week 5, Janelle became the target. After Janelle won POV and used it on herself, Kaysar was made the replacement nominee and evicted by a 5-1 vote. Placing 10th once again, he returned for a third time for Big Brother 22, 14 years later, where he was reunited with Janelle. Their reputations as being popular old school players isolated them. In week 3, they were nominated by Tyler. Kaysar survived, but was separated from Janelle, leaving him in the house for the first time without her. After Kaysar made a memorable eviction speech by calling out the committee's control of the game, and Danielle and Cody, Kaysar was evicted unanimously, placing 13th and missing the jury phase of the game for the 3rd consecutive time.
Chappell, fire away.
I want to start this with, I am a huge Kaysar fan. I remember, like I said, I've seen season 6 and season 7 a million times. I know them well, which is why I'm very equipped to say what I'm about to say. Kaysar is not that great at Big Brother. He's just not, and it's not his fault. It's really just like he can't help himself. He needs to be the leader of an alliance. He needs to be the insurrection against the big alliance. He needs to be in that front facing spot where I'm in control. And a lot of times that gets you picked off very early. And I'm not even going to talk about the fact that when Kaysar plays 3 times, I'm just saying, like, Kaysar, as we saw in the first 2 times, it's just he cannot help it. He has to be in the front. Even when he saw, if you get to the 3rd time, even in that moment, it's I think that his reputation precedes him as a big name. And so that's why I'm like, BB22 is probably an outlier. It's been a long time. He doesn't know all these people. And also they know his name. He's a big target. But if you look at those first 2 times, Kaysar was doing himself no favors. I like that he's able to rally an alliance. But I don't think that Kaysar has it in him to be able to lay low in a lot of the ways that it takes to win a Big Brother game. I think you need people to be able to push it in front of you. I think that Kaysar is always a big old shining, blinking light of just get me, target me. If not for Janelle, he doesn't have any meat shields that season, and he still goes out before her twice. So I love him as a character. But there's a lot to be left, lot left to the imagination, I guess I should say, for Kaysar's actual gameplay in Big Brother across 3 seasons and 4 eliminations.
Mm-hmm.
The stats just ain't there for me.
Yeah, the baseball card, as you mentioned earlier, is incredibly unfortunate. You talk about, like, if this player played 100 times, how does it go? We've seen at least 4 out of 100, and the 4, 4 meaning times evicted, at least 3 total seasons. That just didn't go well. There's a lot of infamous moments with Kaysar, of course, the Jennifer of it all, BB6, how things went in every season, BB7, BB22, BB22, he finally lasts longer than Janelle, and Janelle goes home before him. And it's like, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe there's a world where now that half of this big target is out of the house, this big threat of old school players, very much outside of the committee, outside of the majority alliance that's planning on running the game, maybe there's a world where he can, gather up enough people to at least, put him to the side for a couple of weeks, even if he can't find his way in with the committee. But I mean, you're also talking BB22, and that alliance had such a stranglehold. There was nothing ever he could have done, but maybe even surviving 1 week past when Janelle goes would have been something. Look, everybody loves Kaysar. If you don't, I don't want to know you. Everybody loves Kaysar. When he showed back up as a cast member for BB22, we were like, we know Janelle's going to be there. But when Kaysar showed up on that cast list,
yeah, that was crazy.
We lost our minds. It was unbelievable. And, I think that him being back there could put us in a world where, I don't know, is Kaysar going to pop up on the Traders forecast? Would love to see it. He'll be there for 2 episodes, and I'll love those 2 episodes that he's there. I can't wait. But this is going to be tough. Amon's going to have to make a really good case, I think, for Kaysar going through here, because it hasn't been made by Chappell. It hasn't been made by me, but I think Amon has the case for why Kaysar is the better player in this matchup.
Mind you, Rachel already beat him once. Just saying.
I mean, hey. So this might be annoying for some listeners because I know that we get a lot of listeners that are like big game, like sort of like game bots, strategy thinkers, things of that nature, which is fine. That's fine. But again, and this is sort of what we like preface with the beginning of this podcast. When we're setting out to find the best Big Brother player, it isn't always necessarily just about strategy, okay? Sometimes like I'm also going to think about like what this person has contributed to the tapestry that is the culture of Big Brother, North American wise at least. And Kaysar is just such a huge entity that I think I would be remiss to not at least include that in an argument that maybe he needs to stick around for a little longer. Is he the best Big Brother player strategically? Hell to the no. I think that you hit the nail on the head, Chappell, when you talk about how he just really feels like he needs to be in the driver's seat of like the opposition, right? And even with BB7 or BB22, it was very much that. I will grant him a little bit of grace with BB22 though, because immediately, like night one, Cody wins HOH, and Julie asks him, so who are you afraid about or who are you surprised about? And he immediately was like, Kaysar.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was like never a world. I think that if anybody else had won that first HOH, maybe there's a world in which he can have sort of like a beginning of BB All-Stars, the first one, where he's able to get his teeth into like a nice little chunk of people and maybe last a little longer. But he was immediately out of power, immediately targeted, and there really wasn't much for him. There was nowhere else for him to go. So BB22 is kind of like, whatever. He played similarly, yes, but I do think that the target was just so big and so massive that was just going to be a foregone conclusion anyway. So I'll give him the grace there. But comparing BB6 and BB7, I think the thing that I count the most against him is, yes, like throwing that pressure cooker comp when you just got back in the house.
It didn't make no sense. It didn't make any sense.
What are you doing? But he's such a staple that I'm having a hard time wanting to vote for Rachel right now.
Yeah, we talked about this in the earlier episodes of like, you know, the best player could mean a hell of a lot of different things. And I know there's probably a lot of people rolling their eyes at the possibility of like the best player meaning like, you know, what they did for the game and everything that Aman was just saying. Like I can see a world where we put points on a certain player for that, like award points to them for, you know, what they've done and for their impact and whatnot. But I don't know that Kaysar is going to be the first player that I do that for, because the bad just so heavily outweighs anything.
So
like
bad.
Just having a podcast here where the intention is to find the best Big Brother player, I could not look at myself tomorrow in the mirror and say, yeah, I was a part in sending Kaysar through. I mean, I'm making my vote unfortunately clear, and I hate it. I'm sorry, but I just like, we all have to be honest with her. I have to be honest with myself with how this is going. I mean, I don't know.
Kaysar was the first of his kind. You know, he shows up and he's like the first Muslim contestant, and so he's got a lot going against him, especially in that year around that. You know, but I mean, his thing is that he always manages to find himself the opposition to the majority. If Kaysar could just find himself in the majority and just sit, I think he's better. But going in BB6, he's a part of this alliance. He helped start this alliance, but he's one of the first ones picked off. The alliance is successful to an extent, but not because of Kaysar. It's successful because they keep winning stuff. By BB7, he comes in with half of that alliance. You know, you would think you came in with 3 people that you know, 4 people that you know, I think, in BB7. And so you come in with these people, you would think you'd have a little bit more of a buffer. And Kaysar is still the first one to go from that alliance.
Production really wanted him. They wanted him to succeed. They set him up. Really nicely. Like there was so much fanfare around Kaysar. He was getting asked on news channels about how it feels to be a sex symbol in the country. Like, there was so much Kaysar hysteria.
Oh yes, he's beautiful.
Very much is. Oh my god, he can pressure my cooker any day, as I always say. But I just you know what? No, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't care if my lady loins are talking. I'm voting for Kaysar. I don't give a damn. I'm sorry, Rachel. I don't care.
Wow.
I really don't.
I get it. I get it. I respect it. I I'm fighting this battle within myself that I saw him pop up and I knew that I couldn't. I mean, look, if like, you know, an NEP came up, sure, I can vote for Kaysar, but I'm sitting here talking about how Rachel is, you know, just like at that top tier of the average category, like something within her, I think like could be considered, okay to good. I can't necessarily say the same for Kaysar as a game player. So, Chappell, what I see in front of us here is a 1-to-1 vote with you as the tiebreaker, my friend.
And it's tough because, like I said, I already have my opinions about Kaysar's game, but also to include Kaysar, like to take Kaysar out of this, to leave Rachel. No disrespect to Rachel, but who gives a damn if Rachel's not in this? Like, who are the Rachel stands at home? Like, you robbed Rachel. She could have taken this all away. Of course not, right? But if we don't put through Kaysar, people are gonna be like, "What? It's not fair." They're gonna be jumping through.
Are they, or are people going to be very aware of Kaysar as a game player?
Listen, you can do both because Amon is very aware that Kaysar is not great at the game, and he still put him through. So I think that there's something to say about, you know, like if it's something like this where it's like the person they're going up against probably ain't gonna win this whole thing anyway. I could see myself throwing Kaysar a vote. Unfortunately, there's just so much bad there. There just is. I would love to know what Kaysar does well.
I thought he was doing it. I thought he was.
No, I can't do it. I can't because I really wish I thought. Again, if I had to draft two of these players, knowing what I know about Rachel and Kaysar, if I had to say one of you has to win another season of Big Brother, what percentage of that is going to be Kaysar? Be serious. Kaysar really about to win Big Brother? Really? The Kaysar we know? Stop it. So, yeah, Rachel could probably squeak her way to the end. She ain't going to piss nobody off. They're going to be happy to vote for her. Kaysar going to have a target on his back about week 2, and he'll be out about week 4.
Yeah.
That's
it
fine.
Is what it is.
That he can make it back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Really assembling some of these
Episode 3. Oh.
Audio only. Amon is like falling out of his chair. Not falling out of his chair, just leaning so far back he may fall out of his chair. So
this was a tough one, but you know.
This feels like a really good time to remind everybody that while we don't have it all set up yet, you know, we're playing some episodes out for a bit. We will eventually have a way for people to be voted back in. There's going to be a long time to go in this round. So if there's a world where Kaysar makes his way back to round 2 by some votes by you all out there, then we'll see. Well, it'll really put it to the test of how do you all feel? You know, all of us knowing what Kaysar's game is, what it has brought, what he's able to do or hasn't been able to do, I may say. But to the points of why Amon is looking to vote for him, maybe the voting group comes together and it happens. Who's to say? But for now, Kaysar will be going out in round 1 to Rachel advancing.
And in typical Kaysar fashion, if y'all do vote him back in, he ain't going right back out. Right back out.
Now that would be fantastic. I mean, gets a second chance. Voted back in. Come on, it writes itself.
A good matchup I would love to see is like Kaysar versus Davon. That's what I would love to see, because then that way you have to look at the impact of people versus actually what they have done, and even then, I can't promise you Kaysar is getting my vote.
That's pretty easily Davon for me.
Yeah, see,
I mean, a couple of weeks in BB18, and as much as we got in BB22 gives me way more to work with than Kaysar did.
If you can say that about Davon,
definitely, like, I think that I've never thought about the two of them together like that. That's why I love this show that we're doing. But their games are very similar. Like,
they can't help themselves.
I feel like, you know, my bias is going to come through in what I would do with that decision. But like, if I'm being like honest and really putting them together, I'm like, oh,
they can't help themselves. You know. So I'll be dying to see what happens when more complicated votes come up later on. But this is thank you for including me in this one. I'm so happy I got to talk about Kaysar.
Let's recap. In our first matchup of today, we had Big Brother 2's Bunky advancing to the next round over Big Brother 4 second boot Michelle, leaving the bracket nice and early here, unfortunately for her. We also have a celebrity Big Brother appearance here today, where Omarosa advances to round 2 over Big Brother 23's Britney. We also had, in our most recent matchup, in a very dramatic and controversial finish to today's episode, we had Kaysar losing in a matchup to Big Brother 6, fellow Big Brother 6 alumni, Rachel, in a real big heartbreaker there. I mean, what are we going to do? Aman, you tried. I appreciate it.
tried.
I'm glad
I
someone did.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it
I
within
mean, I
myself to
really
have
do
that be
think
me.
that like there is, and like obviously Kaysar might not be like the best example of this, but like I do think that there are those players that we know that aren't necessarily, you know, bastions of strategy. But what did they contribute? What kind of mark did they leave on Big Brother? I think that's important to add, because the game is changed by so many of these players, and not all those players are good. So I think,
There's versions of this show we've seen, the OTTs, or whether it's just like your random twists on any given week in Big Brother where people vote and you get powers. And you know, if they have BB, you know, a future season or another season that Kaysar were to play on, that was BB OTT like that, you know, you just vote on who you want to do while throughout the entire season. Kaysar's winning, maybe.
Maybe.
But always in our hearts, Kaysar. And when we see him again on Traders 4 or whatever it is that is next for him, we'll all be there and excited. Chappell, thank you for joining us here today. It was so much fun. I'm glad you were able to break the mold here for podcasters joining us in this podcast, and just had a great time.
Yeah. Oh no, this has been so much fun. I'm happy to be the first podcaster to come on. Like I said, I'm a big fan of all the rooms that y'all are in, choir rooms, diary rooms, etc., etc. So if you want to have me back, please and thank you. I would love to come back and talk about more Big Brother. But this has been so much fun, and I
Yes.
definitely appreciate y'all always showing me some love.
Yes, you know you'll be back. And in the meantime, where can everybody find you? Where can they find the Recap Kickback and every other project you've got going on?
Well, they can start at recapkickback.com. Yep, that's where I talking about whatever I want to talk about. Recently, we started some House of the Dragon coverage. This I feel like this podcast is gonna be evergreen. People are gonna be looking at this for years and years and years. So I don't want to really just like, you know, timestamp it with exactly what I'm talking about. But check it out, House of Dragon coverage, other content over there. We've talked about a bunch of documentaries, a bunch of TV shows, movies, whatever you want. More content from me, obviously. Recapkickback.com/subscribe. And then, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/@recapkickback for all the Chappell content that you need. And then you can go, of course, to RHAP, where I'm talking about Below Deck currently, the Hungry Games, this competition reality show with some bears. You know, it might come up in conversation soon as well. And then, of course, the Nothing But Netflix podcast that I co-host with Rob Sesternino are all available on RHAP, and so people can check that out too.
Yes, Aman, by the time we have this episode up, all three of us will have competed in this upcoming for us in real time version of the pressure cooker. So very relevant to the Kaysar of it all.
Yes.
Like, you know, the energy is out there right now. It's crazy, but we're the only three that are going to know that at the time that competition takes place.
You gonna throw them on?
This is going.
Trust me, guys. I got you. I'll keep you guys safe. Aman, what else is going on?
Yeah. This is definitely a great week for us. You guys will be hearing this the day before. I'm assuming you're watching or listening to this the day that we release it. But tomorrow will be the premiere of Big Brother 26. So you can check me out at RHAP all summer long talking about BB26. You can always check me out over at the Recap Ups channel with Liana and Beth talking some All Stars 9. And you can follow me everywhere at Aman Adwin. Also, again, thank you guys so much for all of the support. As of this recording, we are at 960 subscribers on YouTube. We are 40 away from 1K, and that is less than it's like a little bit more than a week, and that's just insane. So big thank you to everyone for the support. It's been very, very encouraging and very, very fun.
And hopefully by the time this episode's out, we're at 9960. I don't know. Just a lot of people jumping in on the action here. It's been so fun. The response has been so great. Personal plugs. I'm on Twitter at Matt Ligori. Of course, always over on the Free Agents podcast, talking about the challenge and any other shows that come up along the way. Now, by the time this episode is out, you will also have in that podcast feed another podcast that I get to do with my friend Chappell here. As in real time, we are about to tomorrow record a House of Villains draft. alongside Scally and Jenny, talking about the upcoming season of House of Villains, maybe talk about some people that we want on future seasons. So you can go check that out on the Free Agents podcast. And like Aman said, covering some BB26 all throughout the summer as it comes up over on RHAP. So can't wait for that. And like Aman said as well, thank you so much, everybody, for everything with the likes, comments, subscribes, all of that fun stuff. One of like the most important things that we really could use the help with is over on the podcast feed. We've had a lot of love on YouTube so far, but we would like the podcast feed to also get some love as well, just to, you know, anybody that's listening audio only, to go make sure that people are aware of the feed. So when you go over to the feed, especially on Apple Podcasts, I'm not sure how Spotify reviews work, if they're even there, but on Apple Podcasts, a 5-star rating and review would be so greatly appreciated, as well, of course, over here on YouTube, liking the video and subscribing to make sure that you see the video as soon as it pops up on those Tuesday mornings, and all that good stuff. So that's it for now, I think, unless I'm forgetting anything. I will turn to Aman, because I reminded Aman recently that he used to close the show on the choir room and tell people that he'll glee us later. So I don't know why I decided to come in here and start closing the show myself, but Aman, this is all you.
Alrighty then, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Be kind, love one another, and please go to the diary room.